Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for the armed services. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brenda, can we have roll call?
Sure. Counselor Andrews?
Present.
Counselor Flegel? Here. Counselor Nye? Here. Counselor Pearson?
Here.
Counselor Rydell?
Here.
Counselor Shear? Here. Counselor Wilson?
Here.
Dan wrote this really fast. Mayor Miller? Here. We have a full house.
All right, announcements. Please silence all cellular devices during the meeting. Thank you. Council members, please turn on your microphones. Today we have a special visitor. Dr. William Seaton will be in attendance to discuss the subsurface and stormwater investigation report.
We've given a full report to everyone on the board. One, two, three. There we go. Okay, this is a drone picture we took as things started getting green in Palmyra in 2024, looking from Millard Quarry to the southwest. Millard Quarry, Millard Quarry is not in the borough, but it's right on the edge, and it is a vital part of the subsurface stormwater world of Palmyra. You really need to be thinking about Millard Quarry because a lot of water from the borough flows there, right? So let's go to the next. Yeah, and this gives you an idea. Everybody knows Palmyra has sinkhole issues, that kind of thing. But here's a little bit more detail. This is a topographic map of south central PA. Harrisburg's right here. Palmyra, Lebanon over there. Here's Palmyra. This blue zone here with the dashed lines on each side and then the little dots. The dots are actual, we call surface depressions or sinkholes. The dot is an actual, think of it as a sinkhole. And this is a sinkhole belt that runs from east side of Pennsylvania all the way across down through south central, then heads to the south to Maryland border. It's a very, very substantial zone. A lot of economic minerals and that kind of things, but also sinkholes. So here we are. Next slide. We did a surface water, which is, of course, it's water at the surface, and then groundwater study here, which is the water underground. And that's how we separate them, if you go to the next. So we're talking surface water modeling first. And we're going to talk about watersheds. And it's a very simple concept. Again, here's the borough boundary here in black. You probably recognize it. The map underneath, these colors represent surface elevation. So the higher elevations are going to be green, around 600 feet above sea level. The lower elevations are around 300, that's the quarry. And we've divided into two watersheds that we're calling the Spring Creek watershed and the Killinger Creek watershed. And there's, of course, Millard Quarry. What a watershed is simply is if theoretically at least, if a drop of rain falls anywhere within the Spring Creek watershed, that drop of water will end up in Spring Creek. A different drop of water falls in this watershed, ends up in Killinger Creek. Just think of it that way. And we call a watershed divide literally runs through the center of the borough. So the borough's divided in half. Many of you may know that already, but it's worth pointing out. Let's go to the next slide. And here's a little we call the hydrologic cycle for the borough. Again, you can see the borough there. Total average annual precipitation, 42 inches, plus or minus, right? of which that's 100%. That breaks into about a little over half we call evapotranspiration, over 21 inches. That's water rain that evaporates or hits a leaf of a tree or some kind of plant and gets taken up by that plant. That's evapotranspiration. Whoop, let's go back.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Runoff is simply that, water that hits a street and runs off. And then we have underground infiltration. A third of the water that comes out of the sky, it's snow or rain, ends up underground, goes to the water table and becomes groundwater. Important distinction. Let's go to the next slide. Here's another topographic map. I'm using a little bit different color scale here. But you can see higher elevations here are in red, and the low elevations are in blue. So you can see a big difference in elevation and where water is going to tend to run towards the low elevations this way. Here, there's the core of the lowest elevations, or of course the quarry. Okay, next slide. This is a really important map, and this map is in the report. And I suspect that borough staff, and I've encouraged them to be familiar with this map, because this summarizes a lot of the results of the study and will help the borough plan stormwater and stormwater injection and these kind of things, and also have an understanding of where sinkholes are. But I've called this a Palmyra local watershed map. Remember, we had two big watersheds. We had the Killinger Creek and over here Spring Creek. Well, within those two watersheds are we call sub-watersheds, or smaller watersheds. So if a drop of rain falls here, what I've numbered 15, and I'll show you the chart that connects that, it's going to run this way towards Spring Creek, or in this case, towards that big old abandoned quarry there. Same over here. Individual watersheds capture water on their own. And what we've posted on here as well is the locations of the injection wells that exist in the borough. And we have an understanding, we have measured the acreage or the area of each watershed. So if there's a situation, say here on North Locust Street in watershed 15, right away borough staff or engineers can get an idea. There's no injection wells in this watershed. And depending on where the problem is, say it's down gradient in a lower part of the watershed, there's a lot of water moving to that point. As opposed to, say it's way up gradient in the local watershed, then there's really probably not a lot of water going to that spot. And you would adjust your thoughts about how you're going to remediate or fix any sinkhole or other kind of underground problem. So a very useful map. I think it's going to go a long way. Notice here, the western side of the borough has very few injection wells. All these clustered here, almost all of those are the middle school injection wells, which is just one spot. And most of these are rooftop water. So don't be, that's not a big deal. Actually, IW1 is actually the only one on the west side. All the others are on the east side. Okay, that's again a key. Go ahead. What's an injection well? Good question. It looks like a water well where they drill a 6 or 8 or larger diameter hole into the ground. And that injection well captures surface water that's running off. It goes into the injection well and goes underground immediately. So it's a very, very powerful way to mitigate stormwater. Palmyra's historic stormwater mitigation is let the water run in the streets until it goes somewhere. So a lot of the old boroughs, that's how it was done. But we know the new rules for stormwater management they want you to manage that water. They don't like flows of water, running it through a street. You've got to manage it. And I'll tell you, a stormwater injection well is like, oh wow, I can take all this water and gone, like that. Think of Cherry Street, the stormwater basin there. When that was designed, it's not a big area. I mean, it's a little bit larger than this room, but not maybe 3 or 4 times, but not much. A tremendous amount of water goes into that Cherry Street stormwater impoundment, and that impoundment sends it to 2 injection wells. You get a strong storm event, and that captures it, and it's gone. Well, it's going to the quarry, but it's not your problem anymore. So these stormwater injection wells, great question, are a great mitigator of stormwater issues. And the borough has had many of them over the years. Some of them were constructed using old standards and ended up causing sinkholes themselves. Newer ones, we set steel casing through all the shallow rock and soil to avoid that. Okay, so the green spots are the injection wells, current ones. Let's go to the next slide. Here's the local watershed list. In other words, this list corresponds to that map, and it's on the same page in the report. Here's the number. Remember I said number. I put a name on each one based on, North Railroad, where it was near. The total acreage, the size of that watershed, the acreage that's actually in the borough, which becomes an issue when you're on the edges, right? Who's responsible kind of thing. Which injection wells are in that particular sub-watershed, and you can see there's the middle school. Some of these have several injection wells, and here's the actual basin, or where the water's going to. This slide and the previous map are maybe the most important components moving forward for planners in that whole document I did. Question?
The previous map that you just had, was that one of our big maps?
Yep, that's one of the big ones.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, this is part of it too. That's all one. Yeah, so you can see both on the same page. I was almost thinking you may want to put it out on put it on a wall or make some kind of permanent thing. So let's go to the next page. Now we're talking about groundwater modeling. This is simply where there's surface water and there's groundwater. They're not the same and they behave differently. So we had to study what's the surface water doing, what's the groundwater doing. To help understand the groundwater, we did a computer model of it, and that's what this means. We did a computer simulation. Go to the next. To start that simulation, we just made a water table map. And all this is the elevation of the water table. And the water table is simply where if you drill down in your yard or anywhere in the borough, first. And notice here again, this is elevation in feet above sea level. The quarry is down, 300 something feet. The highest area up here is 500. So you got a couple hundred feet of actually relief. It's almost like a little water mountain here and a water valley here. And notice the Palmyra's here, and the quarry is almost at the same elevation. However, the borough area is all up gradient, so all the water will flow from here to the quarry. Here, this water doesn't really, it looks like water pretty much stays here. It doesn't move too much because this is all shale and rock that does not transmit water hardly at all. This is limestone down here, and there's caves down here. Water flows pretty quickly. There's some of these injection wells are caves underground. You might know that. There's cavernous areas. When you get a camera and go down a 6-inch diameter borehole, it's like looking down a pipe, right? So nothing about that. But we've gone down with cameras, and all of a sudden the pipe disappears, and it's all black. And you put a light down there, like a shop light, and it's showing light and shadows, and you're in a room down there, hundreds of feet down. Now, don't want to scare anybody. It's not an issue. It's all way below the earth. It's not a problem. But there's a tremendous amount of area that water flows through under this part of the borough. Again, please do not be alarmed by that. It's been going on since forever, right? But that's what's happened. The thing is, from a planning point of view, there is tremendous capacity for additional ejection wells if you need them. That quarry is like the ocean, right? You're never going to, that thing's just huge volume of water. It's not filling up anymore. It's stabilized with the water table in the area. And as far as I can tell, and as far as all the data shows, you can continue to inject water or add new injection wells in the borough as needed without being concerned that you're going to run out of capacity.
What is the current depth of the water at the quarry right now?
I don't know the exact right now. What's this? It's pretty close to what this is. 450, 350, 320 in this. 320, there's somewhere around there. Yeah. Haven't done it every year. The PEMA will have a map usually, and you can usually figure it out from there. We droned it like we saw in the very first picture. But that was, 2024 was the last time we really added data to this. But I don't think it's changed much. Next, go ahead, next one. This is just a picture of the computer model. So this is think of this as that last map. You know, there's the quarry up here, here's Palmyra. And so we just put in color codes for the kind of rock and how easily water moves through the rock. And this low and high permeability rocks, you just model the rock permeability, in other words, how well water flows through it, until your model results equal your real results. So as I model that water table in the computer, and I change the rock based on the data I have, as far as from the rock information and from the data from the injection information and the water levels, then you make a model that simulates what actually happens. So now we can predict. Suppose we want to drill a new injection well here. Okay, the water's going to go to the quarry. So an engineer or any kind of scientist working on this can tell you guys, here's where the water's going. Here's how it's going to solve the problem, or not. That's what the model is for, to help predict what's going on. And it's science, so it's based on data we have. It's going to change to some degree. Notice there's hardly any data out here. Haven't needed it, but this part of the model would likely change if we had to put injection wells over here because we just don't have data over there. Okay, next slide. Oh, question?
Looking at the legend, what rock types allow more runoff than others?
Okay, that's a good question. Shale up here is going to give you more runoff. Shale does not absorb water too well. We do a lot of work for farms and people wanting to drill wells that need high yield. If they're in the shale, you know, you're limited. You might get a well 10, 15 gallon a minute, 20 maybe. In limestone, you can get 1,000 gallons a minute. It's a huge difference. There's places in the shale, it's not bad, but usually when the shale gets good well yields, there's some limestone in there. But shale is not a good conductor of water. Limestone, fractured, broken up limestone particularly, is crazy good. That's what you got here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, here's another picture of the Burrow, and this is figure 8 right out of the report. Areas with significant topographic slope change called break lines. Now, when you're driving down any of the streets in Palmyra, you know the bigger slopes where you drive big hill up and down. Those are called break line areas. They matter. Those topographic changes matter. They're telling you something about what's going on underground, and they're also a hint to areas with potential issues because sinkholes like those kind of things. And think of water going over a hill and running fast as it goes downhill, but it hits the bottom, it slows down. That's where it erodes rock. As it slows down, it really tears up the rock. And that's happening 24 hours a day, right? A little bit of water all the time. So these areas or areas around these doesn't guarantee, but they tend to produce sinkholes more than other areas. It also depends. If these are in a shale area, it doesn't matter that much. If they're in a limestone area, it can matter. And we're going to look at some examples here.
So you're saying the north area up there is shale area?
This is shale. You see the steeper, yeah, that's shale, but you're going into limestone.
Okay.
So this area up here, it potentially could be a problem. I don't think it generally is too much.
I hope not.
There's some up there, but it's generally pretty good rock up there. But those kind of, I said, there it is. The thing is you got shale there, so that's helping you. Yeah. Down here, it's all limestone. Okay. Yeah. So, okay, next slide on that, please. And we can go back to any slide you want to. Areas of concern. So we collected lots of data for this study, and it's all in the report. I didn't want to go through and bore you guys with all our data. But it's there, and I'd be more than willing to talk to anybody after the meeting or any time about the data itself. But these are areas of concern that we came up with when we summarized the data. So let's go. And so I'm going to go one by one through specific areas. And this is South Grant Street. Area of concern, let's see, near Cherry Street grouting within the break line area. So here's the break line area I just talked about. Cherry Street and Grant. Ooh, brings back memories, right? Wow. National news, I think, right? But at any rate, here's some of our data. I'm going to give you little snippets of our data to show you what we're finding. This is, we call MASW data. It's a kind of seismic data that evaluates the speed of sound as it moves through the rock. Very dense, tight, solid rock sound moves quickly through it. That's this red color. rock that's broken up, full of soil, full of water. Sound moves slowly through it. That's the green and blue. The blue is colored purposely that way because that's where you can have voids there. You can have cavernous areas there. That's where the water generally is. So here's the deal. This line goes right through where the Cherry Street grouting occurred. Notice, we had all those sinkholes in Cherry Street, but it's not blue. The reason it's not blue, that's the $1 million+ of grout right there that was put in the ground in 20, whatever it was. That's why that used to be blue, and there's a little bit of blue left, but it's all taken care of. But you go over here, this part of, we call this a low velocity zone. This is a potential issue down at this end. And in fact, right here, I don't remember the exact alley, there was some significant sinkhole issues right here that were mitigated, that were taken care of, right on associated with this situation. What it's saying is, water can move quickly from the surface into the ground, and when that happens, it pulls soil with it and causes sinkholes. It's really that simple. Very simple. And the problem is magnified when you have houses that have roof drains that go vertically straight down next to the house, between the foundation and the soil. And so you can see it sometimes. And that water's running right down the side of the basement into the ground. Some basements, some of the older homes, literally had what we call French drains in the basement, where the wash water would go. How to make sinkholes, right? And no one knew any better. But you do that on a house that's here, it's just going to make a sinkhole, and that's how you got Cherry Street in 2014. That's what happened. Anyway, so that's an area of concern. That's how we picked them out. That we got the whole Cherry Street impoundment there. It's still an area of concern, but a lot of it's been mitigated because of the grouting. Okay, next one, figure 12. This is East Cherry Street. I call it East Cherry Street. This was done before last year. It's the technology. It's good technology. Last year, there was a big sinkhole right here. This study was done in 2024. Then this thing happened in 2025. Because it shows you got these steep incline coming down East Cherry. That's this zone here, right? Your steep slope. And water comes and it flattens out and starts digging a hole. And this whole area has been full of sinkholes for years and years. But here it is. You can see very weak rock all through the shallow zone. Very weak, full of water. And so when you start getting extra flow in here, it starts eroding and sinkholes happen. Notice this end doesn't have it. A lot of that's been grouted. A lot of that is showing you historical areas that historically were grouted. So that's why it's good technology. It shows it's like taking an X-ray underground. There's the broken bone. There's the weak part, right? Okay, next. Let's go to the next slide. This one's we know about it. We knew about it before, but it's also an example. This is the middle school, and we're calling this South Locust Middle School here. This is all very shallow water here. We have pretty decent rock. The rock's not the problem here. The problem is that we have such shallow aquifer here. It takes water quickly right here. Hundreds of gallons a minute just flow in there. Problem is when you do that so shallow to the ground, this little thin cover can break. And that's the west side of the middle school. And that's the middle school's injection well, which is right here. It's been going on for a while. It's a big diameter thing. And if you have certain conditions, the water's going up and down because of rain or drought, it tends to erode around it.
What's the depth there?
This is 50 feet here. So that well's,
35?
yeah, something like that, yeah. It takes water, great. You can throw all the water you want in there. The problem is what that water's doing. So,
They just redid the football field over there.
right.
Will that have any effect on that zone?
Where is the football field drainage going to? There's a football field there. What are they doing with that storm water? I don't exactly know. It may be going to that well. The football field is likely pretty good shape because we've drilled a bunch of holes over there. It's like solid rock underneath that. But where that water's going, I tend to believe it's going this way. I don't know, though, I hate to say. It could be going there, it could be going elsewhere, I don't know.
This is why they replaced their turf field, or their grass field with another grass field, because the school district could not come up with a stormwater plan to get rid of the water off the turf field. That's why they had to replace the grass. And this particular injection well is a problem because it's only about 25 feet deep.
Yeah.
So it's not sending water away from the area. It's just
in the shell.
laying around in there, and eventually, a couple times now, it has taken Locust Street down. So this is one area we need to work on.
Yeah.
And we need to work in conjunction with the school board to make sure this gets resolved.
Yeah. Again, remember that the school also has very successful injection wells in the right here in the northern part of the school property that all this rooftop water is going to. That's working fine. So, okay, so I think each of these areas of concern that we're going to show you are help you budget for the future. Hey, these are all areas that could have, don't know if they will, but these are more likely than others given the data we have now. So, okay, next slide. Next area of concern, I call Southeast Palmyra. Again, we're showing some data here, but select data to show you. Here's solid rock, this red. Notice it's on South Franklin. Where's the red? Gone. The rock there is very soft. Very susceptible, but also a good place for injection wells. Some of this rock's okay, the brown may be okay. The main thing when you got this situation is keep the water out of, keep the water managed at the surface so it's not just seeping into the ground randomly. Manage the ground, stormwater. And if you actually do an injection well in these areas, which are usually pretty good. In fact, we did one on Frank, we did a couple of years ago, we did an injection well over here. It worked out really well. But you just keeping the streets paved, that kind of thing, and we'll go over that in a minute, to keep the water flowing in the surface till it gets to a stormwater facility. That's how you stay away from bad situation with injection wells, with sinkholes. So here are the break line areas here. That's the elementary school, and a couple areas there, and you can see slope changes, water's coming down, it's digging its own hole here, same over here. Water wants to dig a hole. You have these shallow areas that are collecting water. Here's a beauty, right? You've got a nice little, right on Walnut, another one of those shallow aquifers that eventually is going to eat its way up towards the surface if it, it could anyway. Managed stormwater at the surface, it minimizes that. So you can see, you could have a house here, you're safe as ever, but you're across the street to your neighbor's place. That's welcome to Palmyra. It's just the way it is. Okay, so that's another area of concern. That's probably one that, it's been good so far, but you don't know. I think in this parking lot, they had some issues with sinkholes a year or two ago. We got a call from them. They took care of them, but it's close by. At any rate, let's do the next slide. Millard Quarry. I want to talk about this because it's important. It's going to be quick. And another thing interesting, during the course of the study, Millard started with no water in it. The bottom of that thing was almost at sea level, right? And then they turned off the pumps and it filled up during the course of our study. So we calculated that. It was like, thank you, God, for this information because it told us a lot of important stuff we need to know. Let's go to the next one. Okay, here's October 2019. Sea level, minus 60 below sea level, right? And then they turn off the pump somewhere between 19 and 22. You can see it start filling up. And then here by 2023, it's at 200 feet. It went higher than that. So we did the calculations. The quarry is filling up at rates of, between 8,600 and 8,500 gallons a minute. That's a monstrous number of amount of water. That's just nature saying, okay, I'm going to fill this thing back. It's going to equilibrate itself. It's a huge amount of water. Then it didn't, and it stopped. It got up to the the water table, and okay, done. Water seeks its own level. That's what it did. And it did it over that time period at those rates. So that helped us understand a lot, because all of the stormwater injection wells, those levels rose up with the quarry. But there's still adequate space in these injection wells to take water and send it here. But that's a very important slide.
So is that, all that water in the quarry, is that all from the north side?
From the north side of,
Yeah, from our,
it's from pretty much the east side, I'd say, northeast side. Well, if you want to go back to the map, I can show you that. Can we go back to the water table map real quick? Can we go back to the water table map? It's a few back. Let's keep going. Let's click a ways here. Because that's a good question. Okay, right there. That's the water table map. Here's the quarry. Most of your water's coming from here, like that. Now this water from the north will run down on the streets or wherever, yeah, mostly on the streets or whatever capture systems are there. It'll get collected and moved that way. The water over here tends to go this way. So, okay, you can go back. Good question. Okay, let's go to the next one. We're almost done. Okay, executive summary. Almost done. Trying to take too much time. Okay, we got giving you a model of the surface watering underground areas of the borough. We collected over 20 miles of new data and previously collected data to build this picture for this report. We gave you the map of those local surface watersheds. We gave you the 3D underground picture, and the fact that that underground picture shows that almost all the injection water is going to the quarry. Recent cessation of pumping is evaluated. Things are fine. The quarry continues to operate as a place where stormwater will go. We've made a prioritized list of areas with potential hazards. We just went through those. And now I'm going to give you a series of improvements, which most of these are not new, they're known, but I'll repeat them again. Improvements to existing stormwater management practices to address the problems. You go to the next slide. Okay, and I know you guys know this, I'm going to tell you again. Maintain all your underground pipes and utilities, no leaks. Leaks are bad. Any underground sewer, water pipe, if it's leaking, that water's going down, it's eroding, it's going to potentially cause a sinkhole, and then you have a big problem. Maintain relatively impervious streets, alleys, and driveways. You guys know some of your alleys are not impervious. A lot of them are. Big problem. And then you got, of course, the garage or the house nearby, and the stormwater coming right off into the alley. That's something that's got to.
you're saying is the alley should be, put blacktop on?
Yeah, impervious, best you can.
Good luck with that in this town.
It's a lot of work, but, and again, you want to focus on the areas of most highest priority. Start with those, and work's already been done. The Grant Street, Cherry Street thing, a lot of work's been done there. So that's a priority. Maintain rooftop water and non-septic wastewater management structures. Maintain them. All that is captured and put, we know where the water's going. Manage stormwater runoff so surface water is directed into existing stormwater mitigation measures. If you get subsidence, like a sinkhole, evaluate the situation in the context of the information that we present here. Use the report. Collect more data if you need to, and then assess based on that. The report's going to help you a lot with future sinkholes. It's going to give you a context. Level of effort required for potential remedial work can be optimized if you use the report. Don't let the report just sit on a shelf. Keep it available to the folks that are called, the first people who are called if a sinkhole happens. Let them be familiar with it. And it'll help them, because a lot of the boroughs are well equipped to handle a lot of sinkholes on your own. You guys have staff, you got people, you can do a lot of them. If you have a question, call me, call one of our guys. We'll help you without spending a ton of money, right? We want you guys to fix your stuff. That's why the report's so good. You guys will get a good head start. Okay, next slide, that maybe, is that it? I have a better, that's not my closing thought. There it is. Thank you for attending. Another drone picture. Corey, any more questions?
So in our town, as you look, there are no streams that are within our borough. Like, I mean, we have Spring Creek, but it's not in town. And the other ones, and I think we're the only town that doesn't have water that travels through it for everybody to pump into, which is why it's one of our biggest problems in the town. because we don't have a stream within the borough.
Yeah. That ground, what they call it, a groundwater divide, literally cuts the borough in half. Water goes one way or the other. On the surface before it gets to a stream. Yeah. Don't make a new stream, but you can make, there's ways.
I'm thinking that is more of a challenge for us because a lot of towns, they always work to get to the streams, but we don't have that.
Yeah, you've got a ways to go.
We've got a ways to go, so our water's gotta move away. But thank goodness we have that quarry
That's the beauty of the injection wells. You can pop a well and it's gonna go underground to the quarry instead of above. That's why it's not commonly, a lot of builders like them because they don't have to have a big pond. That helps you. That means you don't have to have a system. It's all underground. It's a good point. I never thought.
that I didn't know.
Yeah. So your injection well takes the water from wherever you are in the borough and it's going to the quarry underground. You don't even see it. That's the beauty of it. And high volumes. That Cherry Street thing, I've talked to your guys and they've never said, no one's ever really seen that full. It was designed to overflow onto Cherry Street. I don't know, has anybody ever seen that? Where that thing's coming over? It handles water way, way better than our hopes and dreams.
You're talking that retention pond there on Cherry Street.
Yeah, Grant and Cherry.
Yeah, you have one on Chestnut and Spruce, right there at the park.
Yeah, yeah.
That one there has never filled. That sucks the water away all the time.
And what that's saying is your underground pathways, your underground streams, so to speak, are real, and you just got to find them and use them. So the problems can be managed without causing other problems like sinkholes.
We currently have 19 injection wells in town, and we're working with Dr. Seaton on number 20.
Yeah.
The technology that you have to be able to go through and look underground with your, the computer
Yeah.
machines is phenomenal.
It's wonderful.
Because, I mean, the folks from, probably 50 years ago never had that
Didn't have
access to nothing like that. I don't know when it came available.
25 years ago, it really
25.
kind of came in and,
I know when I was a kid and you got a sinkhole, the borough would just come by and throw refrigerators and things and just, dump stone in there.
Yeah.
Because the knowledge wasn't like it is today.
Exactly.
Today, this knowledge is phenomenal.
exactly right. Oh, yeah. Good point.
Do you have any recommendations for us of where we should have another injection well that we don't?
Well, we're working on the one on the very east side, I can't remember, it's between Maple and
It's between Maple and Oak,
Oak, yeah.
and it's right at the very end of Oak. There's an alley in there that goes out to Maple, and it is a low area. It collects water, and Dr. Seaton met with our Public Works and Chris and I out there in the alley to determine where is the best place to possibly drill another injection well. It is on private property, so we will work with the property owner, and I've already contacted him, and he's willing to talk to us because it is a major problem. So if we're able to get that done this year, we also looked at some of our asphalt budget that's left. We may be able to get that paved this year. If not, we'll pave it as part of the projects next year. But that area, that alley should be paved, definitely. So it'll make it a much nicer area.
There's a couple other areas we talked about. Brent, I don't know if you want to bring any of those other places up, Brenda, but there's a few other places that you could consider, but not high priority, I think, at this point, yeah.
There's a couple other. We talked about Pear Alley on the west
Yeah.
side, and Dr. Seaton's working on a proposal for that to see whether or not we can just drill a well on that end and start taking water to it. So, but yeah, he and I are retiring, right?
Well,
I'm going first.
I'm having fun, so, but I dose it out in small amounts, and you guys are high priority, so.
Yeah, no, I'm pulling the plug. So while we have him available to us, we need to definitely identify. And some of the slides that he actually presented here will go straight to our Public Works Department. They already have the injection well map and the injection well listing, so they know where everything's at and what to take care of. but we need to make sure that they start cammering some of our sewer lines, some of our areas that are in these areas of concern. Make sure everything is tight.
Well, as well with that, is the town, before we put those wells in, how much difficulty the town had with all the water that's been around, but how much the progress that we've made has helped this town dramatically. I mean,
It
because
has.
prior to that, it had nowhere for that water to run.
Right.
Now, we've made a lot of progress.
We have made a lot of progress, but if you are in some of these areas that are still experiencing this,
Well,
we've
there
had
will
no
be that.
progress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are now the areas that we need to really focus on.
I think we definitely established a methodology. I think
Mhm.
we've got a nice track record and hopefully keep that going. Another question?
Yeah, you and I spoke about this a little while ago. Is there anything a borough should do in terms of examining its regulations, development regulations, zoning maybe, to take into account areas such as these areas of concern, maybe additional layer of protective regulations in those areas where sinkholes might arise? Is there anything they should be, at least look into, not they so much as the planning commission maybe?
I think awareness is the main thing. I mean, you guys decide what you do with your information, but just awareness that certainly this group of people understands, and it sounds like you do. But buyers and sellers of property this should be real transparent to everybody. You know, maybe if a buyer's gonna buy property in a zone that's got higher risk, like we pointed out, some of those areas, they should know about it. There's no guarantees if it will or will not happen, but they should at least be aware of, hey, the study indicated this particular area could be a problem. And if that's the case, they may want to do a study in that area to determine area specific, is there a problem here? We do a lot of those for insurance companies, where they'll come to us, a buyer will have one of these done, not necessarily in Palmyra, but all up and down that belt in particular. And, you know, they'll say, we want a sinkhole study, and we can come in. Or sometimes there's a small sinkhole and they want to say, how big is this? An insurance claim. Get a lot of those. And is the sinkhole going to affect the foundation? Is it away from all those kind of questions that end up dollar signs, right? Making the dollars big or little. Those questions can be easily answered. Well, we're regularly answered. Leave it at that. It's not always easy, but we can do it. So that's why it's good. It's good to know these areas. To answer the question, people need to be aware before you buy or before you sell. And how you guys do that or manage that, it's up to you, right?
This information will also be very helpful to homeowners that live in the areas that are of concern. I cite an example. I had a sinkhole at my property in Hummelstown, and it was right after a storm it opened up, and we found out it was because the sewer line had broken.
Yeah.
And we don't know how long it was broken, but we had it cameraed and found the break. So once we took care of that, then, you know, we could build from the ground up again. So
That's a great point. Obviously, we talked about the limestone, and we call karstology being responsible for limestones. But the close number 2 is broken utilities, right? They cause sinkholes. And to your point, Brenda, it's something. We back online? Did I do that?
no, it's our wonderful
Okay.
AV system.
But I just want to underscore that utilities are very big problem in other areas. Like I said, shale areas, still you get sinkholes. When utilities break, it's just going to happen.
I do have one question that's semi-related. Indian Cave in Hummelstown.
Yeah.
I have been told that cave really works its way all the way through, all the way out to Lebanon. That, you know, it may not be walkable, but that is a thing that goes great. Is that true? From your experience?
I heard that. In the last month, somebody told me that story. Actually, where'd they say? The Sinkhole Saloon, when they were fixing that some guys went down there and went all the way to Indian Echo. Good good idea for a story,
Yeah.
right? I don't know, maybe it's true, maybe, I don't know that. no.
Okay, I just didn't know if you know.
But
that
I will
channel, but
say,
was
I've
told
seen
it that
some
way.
room-sized caves, kind of like this room, 100, 200 feet down in Palmar. And then where we drill through, and then there's the room, and you drill through the floor of the room, and underneath the floor, there's another room. So how far they go in any direction, I don't know. But man, great, write a novel. Come on, got any novelists here? Questions, any more? Cool. Hey, if you have any feel free to call me or work through Brendan one way or the other. If you have any questions about this, I'd be glad to help out. It's been a pleasure doing this. It's been been 22 weeks started, and here we are, 26, wrapping it up. So it's good. So.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. At this time, I'd like to open up public comment period number 1. Please step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and try to limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Greg Reed, 233 East Table. You guys are gonna put a sign at the end of town, sign at the end of town. I don't understand why. You're not taking care of what you have already in this town. The town looks terrible. I mean, there are people that say, oh, it's a nice town. Go down West Main Street. Go down Railroad Street. It's just, I mean, there's businesses that have grass growing everything in the streets, everything, it's looking trashy. So you're gonna put a sign at the end of town, welcome to Palmyra. Are you gonna have a little sign underneath it, the trashiest borough in the county? Because that's how I feel it would be. I mean, you have motorcycles on curbs, on people's walkways. But not only that, the thing that bothers me is Memorial Park. There is a lot of people that put a lot of time and money into Memorial Park. Right, Brenda?
Yep.
It looks like trash. Grass is cut over where the pavilion is, where they have the little stones, where people paid money to have them. You got weeds growing up, weeds growing around the benches. And what really bothers, and I'm there every day, where the kids play in the playground. You're supposed to have tambark there. There's hardly any tambark there because it's not covered with nothing but grass and weeds. I don't know, when was the last time any of you were over at Northside? Denver? When was the last time you were there?
A couple days ago.
And what'd you see? You didn't see it, did you? Probably not. I mean, if you want to put signs up, waste money doing that, go ahead. But I think the priority should be done first to get things back in line with making the town look a little bit more presentable before you go spend money on a sign in the west end of town. I mean, you got kids that are playing over there at Northside, you know, little kids, and there's weeds. I don't know if there's any poison ivy there. I didn't look close enough this morning, but it's terrible. I mean, the last time they did over there with the little pavilion where the stones are, I don't know if I called you or Billy,
I think Bill.
and he came and they whacked it. Well, whacking it ain't gonna cover it because the weeds are gonna come back up, and they are up. And people spent, what was it, $90 a brick $100 a brick
$100
to
a
have
brick.
dedications on it. I mean, and now around the benches, you got grass growing right up there. So I think things like that and some of the other things ought to be a priority compared to, you know, putting a sign at the west end of town.
I'm with Greg. I hate to tell you that. I want this town to be a better town, and I always try to come forward with that. But I have driven around this town a lot, and I see it crumbling as well. And I hope the council recognizes that and will take that into consideration, because I don't know why it's happening. It didn't used to happen a few years ago, but it's certainly happening now. I mean, I see, and I've talked to you about this before, about the personnel we have, and maybe that's what the issue is, but I have noticed, and I've had people complaining to me about the town. The town is unfortunately not going in the right direction, so I just want to let you know. I am in agreement with Greg.
Well, if I can add to that, an area of concern, and really is something that council needs to consider, is you have taken our office staff from 7 people down to 6, and now as of January 1st, we're going down to 5. So you really should maintain a 6th person, and that person should be a zoning officer that handles. At this point, your codes officer is no longer a codes officer, he is now the zoning officer. He had 24 applications. Now, you did approve an assistant zoning officer through RTU, but, you know, at what level does he send those things over? He has not been out to do any kind of codes enforcement in probably 3 weeks, and then it was just a matter of going out. I think he did a couple as he went home for lunch one day. You know, there's no time. There's too many things coming in for zoning. And you're stripping your staff to nothing. So, I mean, I understand that you don't want to raise taxes, but you have a responsibility to this community to meet the needs. And right now, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you're not meeting them. No. Agree.
Another 100% agreement with you as well.
You know, I figure at this point, I'm gonna say what I want, because what are they gonna do, fire me? And you're welcome to.
No.
You know,
No.
I'll pay for a 4th vote.
We need you.
But it needs to be said. It has to be said.
Yeah.
It's not fair to your new borough manager coming in to take over this responsibility. It's not fair to your new borough administrator / treasurer to take over this responsibility. And to be honest with you, it's incredibly unfair to your codes officer, whom you hired for codes, not zoning. So, I'm sorry. I've said my piece. Meeting's yours, Mr. President.
And
Thank you, Brenda.
And I own one more comment, and I really do appreciate working with this council, but I sit here in total amazement that I never see any of you discuss any of this stuff. You all sit here like, and we know there's problems, but I don't ever hear any community, you know, so, and as the mayor, I'm just gonna shut up and I'm gonna let you guys ruin this town or make it better.
Well, for your information, I am putting a zoning officer in the budget.
I was
It's
just gonna
going to
ask
be
that.
up to you to take it out. So you guys are gonna have to decide. I understand what our borough manager says about it's tough to hire somebody for that position, but you don't know unless you try. And let's get it started. I'm putting a zoning officer in the budget, and you all can tell the community if you don't want it.
While we're talking
What's that?
budget, could we also look at putting in some of the alleys, getting back to what we just went over? Could we look at adding some of the alleys to the paving list next year that are in the areas of concern?
Yes, we can. In fact, the alley, if we cannot get it paved, that we talked about earlier, if we cannot get it paved this year, we will be in that area for paving next year. So we would have good mobility of moving a paver over, so we can look at some of them. You're not gonna be able to pave all of them.
No, but I think we need to start adding them in when we can.
Right.
To start getting some.
The worst, the stormwater problem alleys are the ones you wanna start
That's
with.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the problem
Problem
alleys is where we should start with the alleys, getting paved.
And I don't know, it'll maybe a little better when Kim comes back. Maybe there might be grant availabilities out there through the government to prevent sinkholes by paving
Not-
alleys.
Not for paving, but, no. If there were, we would've gone after them. So you're just gonna have to, make decisions next year.
Anybody else for public comment period number one? All right, I'll close public comment period number one. Consent calendar. The following agenda items will be acted upon by a single motion unless a member of Borough Council wishes a specific item to be voted on separately. Approve minutes of August 11, 2026 Borough Council meeting. Approve payment of all bills listed on the July 2026 detailed check listing. Approve the treasurer's report for the period of January 1st through July 31st, 2026.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Action and discussion items. 321 South Horstick Avenue, Weiss Lot add-on plan. Discussion on, if appropriate, to grant a 30-day extension of time to review of the Weiss Lot add-on plan to a new expiration date of November 18th, 2026.
If I can explain a little bit about this. This came before the Planning Commission, and the recommendation from the Planning Commission is to approve this plan. However, it has to meet the engineer and the solicitor's comments, so they have some adjustment to the plan that they have to do. I don't know what happened at the Steckbeck Engineering, but apparently they had some shift in personnel, and I guess the engineer that was working on this may not be there anymore. I don't know. But needless to say, when you have a land development plan, the municipal planning code requires Borough Council to request an extension of time, okay? So, because otherwise, as of that 90-day review period, we have to have everything done by October the 19th. Otherwise, it's a deemed approval. Okay, so we would have to request an extension. Well, because the MPC says we have to request the extension, and they're the ones that need it, they agreed to grant us permission for the extension. So it seems a little convoluted, but it's the way the municipal planning code is actually written. So they've said that they approve the 30 days, or our request for the 30 days. So that's why we officially have to take action on this and move that October the 19th date to November the 18th.
Make the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right. Discussion, Borough Code Modernization Committee. I'll turn it over to Marcus.
Okay, everybody saw the email that Brenda put in the packet. I've been taking a look at the borough codes. I just want to make one thing clear. I'm not proposing that we rewrite the entire borough code. Yeah, there's some things in there that we need to update, bring up the speed. There's areas in there, like right now, there's a spot in there that says about having to find-o-matic. It's fine having to find-o-matic, but if we put in there whatever the borough approves for payment, that way we're not stuck with find-o-matic. If it changes, we'd have to do a whole new resolution. It's going to save us a little bit of time. There's places in there where it still references the Palmyra Police Department, not Palmyra Regional, or the Western Lebanon County Regional Police. It brings stuff like that up to speed. Another one in there that I saw, there's an older provision that essentially prohibits playing in borough streets. And we have newer developments like Brayburn Way and stuff where kids do play in the street. Well, technically, if the police wanted to be nitpicky, they could arrest the kids on the street for playing baseball in the middle of Rayburn Way. Stuff like that just kinds of needs to be looked at. We still have stuff in there about us doing the trash pickup. You know, our employees do trash pickup, we provide the trucks. We all know we subcontract it out. So it's little minor things like that. It's not rewriting the code, but I propose that we have a committee to go over them. If we look at something that says nothing needs to be changed, we slide aside, but everything has to come back to the borough for approval. Has to come back to us for approval. If we would need assistance with somebody, we would go to Brenda, we would go to Kim. We go to Chief Dugan if it deals with fire. We go to Chief Winters, we go to our solicitor, our engineering. If we had questions on something that needs fixed or why was it done this way, we go to somebody without even making a change and bring all proposals back to us. I propose that myself be on the committee because I've been kind of looking over stuff. I recommended Councilwoman Scheer because she has been on council a while. She understands the borough. She understands the codes and stuff and things have changed through the years. And I also recommend Councilwoman Flegel to be on with her knowledge of the borough as well. 2015.
Well, that was zoning.
Oh, that was zoning.
That was just the one section, that was section 380. It's been reviewed periodically, some of the sections that, like the sewer section. Not the whole book, because we haven't run into issues that have required it to be addressed. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing to do.
I was just curious
Yeah.
if it's ever been done.
It's not a bad thing to do, but you have to understand why the ordinances were created in the first place to determine if there's still a purpose for them. Because remember, no law is ever created because somebody did it right.
Right.
Does anybody have any objections to Borough Code Modernization Committee?
I'll make the motion that we do it.
Second?
You're seconding?
Second it, yep.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Councilman Rydell. Will bring us to reports. I have nothing tonight. Mayor Miller.
I'm the same, we already spoke about some things, so I'm good.
Financial report.
Questions?
Fire Department EMS report.
A couple updates. We are switching over to a different system, First Due is the name of it. We're switching incident reporting over September 1st. The whole department will be switched over October 1st. We will be able to actually generate reports from this system. The downside is it's triple the cost of what we were paying for the current system. And also all the current information cannot be extracted into a new system because that's how it works. So thankfully we have people from the community that have been volunteering with us. One person's been Karen's last name? Karen Femmer. So many hours just extracting data and putting it into the cloud for us has been a huge help to us. So after the end of October, I'll be able to generate actual reports again for the first time in far too long. Obviously, Andy's behind me here. We're going to get a couple dates thrown out, probably late October, try to do a fire commission meeting together to talk about a couple key things. One being the declining fund drive. That's declining a lot this year. Apparatus replacement. The department's kind of made a decision where they want to move forward with this apparatus replacement that, as you guys know, is well over $1 million for one piece of fire apparatus. And then talk about some other items. We'll get a fire commission meeting set up for that. Other than that, I mean, you guys need to know
Thank you, Chief Dugan. A library report.
Okay, you have it in front of you. A lot of our committees did not meet this last time. Our fund drive is over 18,000 to date, and our book sales raised over 14,000. It's the second highest we've ever had. And for anybody that doesn't realize it, anybody out there that doesn't realize it, you can donate books to the book sale anytime. Even if you have one book, walk it in, just tell the person at the desk that you're, donating books to the book sale. They can do one book, it could be a case of books. We'll take them all.
Thank you. Western Lebanon Regional Police Department.
You have your July statistics. Any questions on any of your numbers? Any concerns or anything we need to be made aware of? We're just kind of trucking along. Coming into budget season and the end of the year, so.
Recreation Commission.
You guys have our minutes from our last meeting. We are working a little more with the WCREMIA, the West Lebanon County Regional EMA, especially places like Ridge Road when there's larger events. They're stepping up to say, hey, we kind of need to have some plans in case, better lack of words, crap hits the fan and we got to call our fire department up there and they don't have a way in. We got to figure this out. We're also dealing with mitigating the dust issues that we've gotten complaints from the over 55 housing development from the dust blowing in there. So we're working on mitigation on that. That should be ending here soon because we've been getting rain during events, so.
Solicitor's report.
I can report on the 2nd of September, I will be meeting our solicitor at the Court of Common Pleas, Lebanon County, to have a conference on our eminent domain case at the properties at 310, 312 East Cherry Street. So at this point, we've heard absolutely nothing from the property owners. We've offered them agreements and tried to work with them and nothing. So the judge wants to meet with us about the situation and the defendant, but I don't know if they'll be there.
Zoning and Code Enforcement. There's no zoning hearing board meeting scheduled for September of 2026.
Borough Manager's report.
Borough Manager's report.
I'm very proud to announce that the last orange vehicle left the facility this morning. We sold the sewer vac truck. Last week I picked up 2 gentlemen from Minnesota at the airport and they bought our dump trucks. Today I picked up a gentleman from at the airport from Boston. They bought, the company in Boston bought the sewer vac truck. So everything has been sold. We do have one of our dump trucks that was actually purchased through a DEP grant, a 902 grant. So DEP is currently trying to figure out, based off the sale price, how much we owe DEP back as a reimbursement for that grant. And the fleet has been renewed. We're ready to rock and roll with all the white vehicles.
Anything else?
No. It was kind of like the end of a dynasty as it drove out the plane.
I remember those orange vehicles growing up.
Yeah.
There's no communications. Anybody have any other business?
Just want to let the community know, September 1st, the wall that heals is coming through the borough. For you that are not familiar with the wall that heals, it is a traveling portion of the Vietnam Wall that is in DC. It's going to be set up in Campbelltown behind the fire company in the soccer fields from They're starting setup on the 1st. It'll be fully open on the 3rd through the 6th, and it is actually open 24/7. It's the Travel Vietnam Wall, for guys who are veterans, understand the meaning of the Vietnam Wall, especially our Vietnam vets. If you know somebody that wants to help volunteer, to help set up the wall, to help volunteer, please contact the Campbelltown American Legion. They're looking for help. There's actually a planning meeting again tomorrow night at Campbelltown Legion. So if anybody wants to volunteer, get a hold of them. This is actually something very special coming to our area in representation of our veterans, especially our Vietnam vets that really never got a welcome home.
Anybody else have anything? At this time, I'd like to open up public comment period number 2. Please step to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Mattie Reed, 233 East Hazel Street. I do agree with my husband. I see no point in putting Palmyra at the end of town. There already is a sign there, in case you can't see it. It's blue, it's on the right. It's like a state sign. It says Palmyra, it says formerly Palmtown. There's something there. I see no reason to spend money on that. When you get halfway in town, there's a big Palmyra sign. Do we still have street sweeping equipment?
Yes.
Because it's not been on the north side of town probably all summer.
That's correct. They're looking at in the next 2 weeks coming back out again to do a summer clean.
So it's not on a regular rotation?
No, it's not monthly anymore. They're going to do it 3 times a year.
Wow. Okay. I know that I've asked before about the grass along the curb, and I was told that that's the property owner's responsibility. And I don't like to point the finger, but I don't know whose the responsibility is out here at the own borough building. It doesn't look too good.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Absolutely, I agree with you. That's an ongoing conversation, and now we lost our summer help. So,
Well, I'm sorry about that, but who is in charge, and I feel like I'm nitpicking now after this man's demonstration, but who's in charge of lifting the grates to get plants out? Right there at the square.
like the one at the square?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not our grate, that's PennDOT's. But, you know, I've asked our guys to do it.
So is every grate PennDOT?
I'm sorry?
Is every grate PennDOT's?
No, but that one at the square is, that's the most visible one that has a nice big
Yeah,
tall
yeah.
tree growing out of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they cut it at this point. I think our guys did it. I think they, because I sent the summer help while we
It
had.
is cut off.
Yes.
But that doesn't solve the problem.
No, it's
No.
gonna grow up through again.
Yeah.
But they weed whacked it off at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least they took care of that. Really, that's a PennDOT's grate, because it's on a PennDOT road, but.
Okay. I guess that's all. I didn't bring my notes, and I am getting older and forgetful, but maybe I'll be at the next meeting. I don't know. Who knows? All right, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment period number 2? I'll close public comment period number 2, and I'll go back to other business.
Sorry, when she said grate, there's the grate at Main and Mark.
Yes.
The west end
Yes, it's up a little bit.
up, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks.
I think that grate is actually down as far as it can go.
Really? I thought it was down farther when it first was.
We'll have to take a look at it. Oh, does it?
Wasn't
Yeah,
when you
teeter-totters.
first-
Oh.
Yeah, it teeter-totters.
It wobbles
again.
now?
Yeah,
Okay.
And it didn't when it was first
Yeah.
put in.
Usually what happens with those is you have to clean the area because the silt gets underneath that grate and.
Because it was nice and smooth when it was first put in, and now it's.
Okay.
Again.
We'll have them look at it.
Announcements, the borough will conduct its next public meeting on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026, and Tuesday, September 22nd, 2026, beginning at 7 PM. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.